Hi everyone, my name is Aman and I lead the ML research and engineering teams at Masterclass. And today I'm here to talk about a new product called Masterclass On Call, which is currently in open beta that we just launched in December last year. And we'll go a little deeper into how we built it and how we're using Metaflow for being efficient at improving our models. So those of you who don't know Masterclass, we are a learning content company. We provide learning content from some of the best people in the world, some of the leading experts. Here you can see people like Mark Cuban talking about entrepreneurship, or Richard Branson talking about leadership. And we have classes on various topics from communication, leadership, to cooking, to home decoration, across like more than 200 instructors now. About 2.5 years ago, we uh, started to understand the value of Gen AI for education. And since then, we have been working, building a lot of prototypes, building a lot of smaller products to try and get that value out to our users. And On Call is the latest and the biggest iteration of that process. And instead of telling you what On Call is, it's better to show it.
Are you kidding me?
Here's what I think you should do. This is what I think.
Who are you to give me? Hi, Chris. How can I convince someone to agree with me?
That's a great question, Sophie. One key principle in getting agreement is to give the other side the illusion of control.
So how would I do this if I want to talk to my boyfriend about watching our spending?
If you're talking about finances, you could ask him, how do we make sure our spending aligns with our financial goals? This opens up a dialogue without directly accusing him of overspending, and will get you to an outcome you can both be happy with.
Hi, Matt. It's 3 in the morning and I can't sleep. Got a crazy day ahead. My brain won't shut off. What should I do?
Try getting out of bed and engaging in a quiet activity under dim lighting. Listening to calming music, doing gentle stretches, or writing in a journal can help transition your mind from wakefulness to sleepiness.
Hey, Mark, I have that big pitch tomorrow. But how can I really sell it?
Good question, Zoe. First, you'll have to know your industry better than anyone else. Know how your product is differentiated and why it's exactly what your target customers will pay for. Then make sure this comes through in a clear and compelling way.
Okay, that helps. But where should I start?
Start by putting yourself in your customer's shoes. This allows you to think from their perspective and ultimately understand what compels them to buy.
Well, hopefully that was a good preview of what Masterclass On Call is. It's available right now at oncall.masterclass.com. We have two instructors, Chris Voss and Matt Walker. Chris Voss is an expert in negotiation and communication. Matt Walker is an expert on sleep science. And you can go and have a voice-to-voice or a text conversation with both of these people. And our plan is to keep launching new instructors with time. Since we have been running the open beta for about maybe 3 months now, we have been gathering feedback, and It has been very promising in this early stages. You can see that there's members who are feeling better themselves after talking to Chris Voss, and they're able to prepare for hard conversations because Chris Voss has given them the advice on how to approach those. So what we want to do today is do a little bit of a deep dive into how we actually build models which power this experience. And to begin with, we'll do a little bit of a preference annotation with the group here. And I would encourage you to make up your mind on which one you like more. So I'm going to read a little bit through this text. I'm having a big conversation with my manager next week. How should I prepare? And on the left, there is an LLM with saying, preparing for a big conversation can be daunting. Jot down the key points. Any questions? Would you like some more tips? And the person says, yeah. And says, sure, start with a clear goal. Break down your points. Prepare for questions, things like that. On the right-hand side, we have the same initial question. And the LLM says, it sounds like this meeting is important to you. What do you hope to achieve? The user says, I hope to convince him for the plan next year. Then LLM says, would you usually approach this conversation? And the user says, I would just lay my plan out. And this conversation goes on and eventually gets into advice. Without giving any of my opinion away, I hope you have made up your mind. On the left, we have a well-known LLM. And on the right, we have our Chris Voss AI. Let's go through another example. The user asks, I have a question for you. For someone who is on the fence of doing a startup, what advice would you give them that makes them excited, or what would you caution them against? On the left, we have an LLM saying startup can be incredibly rewarding. It offers the chance to work on something which you're passionate about and gives you freedom and creativity. But it also comes with risks. There are financial risks. There is amount of time and energy that it requires. And it's important to have a plan and realistic expectations. On the right, we have the same question, and to be honest, very similar advice, but delivered differently. If you're on the fence, I tell them this. Starting a startup isn't about solving a problem. It's about creating something that changes people's lives. It's like being part of an orchestra. But here's the deal. Starting a business is brutal. You've got to be ready to put everything into it. If you're not fired up to go through these moments which feel impossible, then maybe it's not right for you. I'll get some water. I think I'm. Okay, so hopefully that gave you enough time to make up your minds. And again, on the left, we have a well-known LLM. And on the right, we have an upcoming advisor AI, which will launch very soon. So what were our goals? And these are our product goals, but if you're building a model as an ML engineer and researcher, you need to understand them because the model needs to adapt to these goals. So the first one is that we need to have allow for a personalized conversation. In our user research, it was very clear that the main reason why AI was interesting to our users is because it can really, really customize the kind of advice to their situation versus like watching content which doesn't adapt. It is the way it is. The second thing which was important is that the advice needs to align with our instructor's research. Every single instructor that we have on our platform has spent their lifetime finding their own path in their field. And that is the reason why people see them as experts, as celebrities, whatever it is. And we need to make sure that The advice is not cookie cutter, jot down points, in a notebook, but it really is meaningful and comes from that research. The third part is style. Um, we often say that it's not just what is said that's important, it's also how it is said that's important. And so having this persona, having the voice that this product has makes it much more impactful for our users. So how do we go about building a model which achieves those core goals? So in short, we have built a post-training pipeline on top of Llama. Thank you, the Llama team rep who is here. And the majority of the work that we put in goes into creating SFT datasets. And we'll talk a little bit more in the next slide. These datasets are custom, obviously, and highly diverse to take care of all the user needs and intents that we can sort of expect. And then as well as designing, like making the model safe for potential risks. The second training process, which is work in progress, as the slide says, is reinforcement learning. Reinforcement learning is, by definition, goal-oriented learning. And the reason it's in work in progress is that you really have to get your goals right. When you only try to train for certain goals, which in our case was, let's say, safety, then you do see what is usually called the alignment tax. You do see the quality and the scores drop on other areas. And it can be very hard to find the right balance of all the goals when doing reinforcement learning. And that's why we're still working on it. And last but not the least, prompting. Even after having an extensive post-training pipeline, you still find issues. Your product manager will say, "Oh, why does this AI said this to this response in a 50-turn conversation?" And then at that point, prompting is your best friend. So a little bit more about our SFT dataset. If you think about how, let's say, OpenAI does SFT, they have a bunch of tasks in mind, helping people write emails and messages, helping people brainstorm ideas, like maybe for recipes for dinner, things like that. So we had our own use case list, and the way we define that is not a task, but user intent. So it's like one step behind is like, what is the intent that the user has? And the Chris Voss example that I showed you is an indicator of how intent versus task can be different, because users usually don't know what's the right question to ask. So it's really what we do is that we model on intent rather than task. Um, there are these two circles on the slide which um, label desired intents and undesired intents, and the idea is that desired intents are the positive use cases that our users are coming here for to experience the product with. And then undesired intents are for people who may accidentally ask questions which we don't want to engage in or be malicious. And we've had all of those scenarios in production. And so we want to safeguard our model. And so we have extensive data sets to help that as well. Maybe one more thing in the last slide is that to create these data sets, we have a combination of few ingredients. We have humans and human created data, expert created data. And then we have synthetic generation from LLMs. And then thirdly, we also have knowledge documents. So as a partnership with our instructors, we are able to acquire a bunch of proprietary knowledge documents, their books, emails, things. We had, like, for Chris Voss, we had a book which is still yet unpublished, and we were able to use that in part of our synthetic data generation. Just gonna get another sip of water. So after we train a model, we have to evaluate it. And given the diversity of uh, sort of use cases that we have and users that we may have, it's a pretty challenging problem. And it's a work in progress. We have much more improvements to be made in evaluation. It starts with creating a test data set, which is actually human to human. We hire experts, we get some users or internal team members to talk to those experts. And those conversations become part of our test data set that we use again and again as we eval new versions of our models. We do blind preference comparisons between, let's say, model 1 and model 2, and get win rates as our scores to understand which one is better. And these are all human preferences. We use LLM as a judge. We have a process to convert human annotation data into a prompt, which is done automatically. And that works better than any human written prompt that we have tried yet. But that still only achieves about 70% alignment with our human annotations. And it's one of the harder problems that we've been actually working on for over a year. And it's for the use case that we have. It's kind of the ceiling that we are kind of reaching with the models out there. So quickly, how do we deploy this? We have a client app, which could be an iOS app or a web app. In a voice-to-voice model, you have these 3 steps. So there's the first step, which is ASR, like someone is hearing you talk, converting it to text, sending it to LLM. LLM responds with the text back, and that is sent to a text-to-speech model, which returns the audio back. And all of this is happening in a streaming fashion, so that we can maintain as low as a latency as possible in the conversation. So that's what we have done, and it's available as a product for you all to try. But this AI is moving so fast, and we need to keep updating our training methodologies so that we can kind of keep up to date with the quality bar that's being raised every day. One of the single biggest things that we're planning to do is what I'm thinking I call soft skills specialization. So one of the open secrets out there is that LLMs really respond to specialization. And Sam Altman, I don't know, a few days back tweeted that they have a creative writing model. So lot more people are realizing that. And for our products, what really matters is that model be good at soft skills, conversation, writing, things like that. And we want to try and see if we can do some large scale training with some sort of extensive data curation efforts and try to make models a step better than what current Llama or GPT can do. We want to improve our post training so that it's much more efficient and also yield higher quality results. One of the biggest thing is that creating SFT data sets is really, really hard. It's really operations heavy. And an extreme hypothesis that we are trying is that can we actually get rid of SFT altogether and focus on doing continual pre-training and RL. The last one is synthetic evaluation. This is actually probably the hardest problem of the 3 in this list. So imagine if you have a Greek philosophy course, and by the end of your course, you have to give an exam. The exam questions are being created by someone who has been thinking Greek philosophy for years and is an expert. For every instructor, we have a Greek philosophy course, and the LLM is the student, and we have to test the LLM. And we wanted to not just know the summary of who is Socrates or who is Aristotle. We want to understand the nuance and be able to say, what, this is not Greek philosophy. This is probably Eastern philosophy. Greek philosophy says this, and that means going through the whole knowledge data set, maybe thousands of books, and being able to test in alone all of that. And that's a really hard problem. So I just have 1 minute left, and I'm going to go through the next 3 slides very quickly. So one of the biggest problems that we've had is that developing these training pipelines uses a lot of GPUs, and then being able to use our resources efficiently was one of the biggest problems that we were facing at mid last year. And then Paul, who is in the audience, who's our AI infra engineer, suggested we try Metaflow. And due to some connections, I already know Vilay and Savin. So I just reached out to them. And a few months later, we became the clients, and we have been using Metaflow ever since. We have a wide variety of jobs. starting from PDF extraction and audio transcription to training, to curation of data, to evaluation, to analysis of production jobs, production data, and all of them are now run on Metaflow. The benefits of Metaflow include increased GPU availability. Without actually adding costs, we have been able to increase our GPU workloads, and that is the biggest driver of actually research speed internally. It also allows for easy onboarding of new people onto our team so that I can get a new person from a different team. They want to learn ML, I can get them training a model in an hour. And then we have one platform because of the way images are built, the way it allows you to kind of customize your steps. Like, there is no limit to what kind of workflows that we can implement in Metaflow. And that's really one of the biggest powers of Metaflow. I'm going to pause here. And I think I'm over time, but I'll be available here for questions at the end of it if you have any.